All right, this is lesson 2.6, and we're going to be talking about square root and radicals. For some of you, this might be the first time you've experienced square roots, but if we look at the definition of what square root actually means, it is one of a number's two equal factors. Let me write that out for a second. One of a number's, now that's my abbreviation for numbers, two equal factors. Well, we know what a factor is. We've done our factor trees before. But two equal factors, that means if I have 4 and that's my factor, two equal factors would be 4 times 4 or 16. So that means the square root is one of a number of equal factors. So if I was to say the square root of 16, what number squared equals 16? And we would know that that answer is 4. Now, as you get up to the advanced classes, you'll find out that when we're trying to eliminate the square root symbol, let's say x equals the square root of 16. Well, how do I get rid of the doghouse so that it's not under there anymore? And the way we do that is we end up squaring both sides. And that will eliminate the doghouse and give me x squared equals 16. And then we know that x equals 4. Now, that's square, but what if we have the cube of a number? Well, if we were to write that, this is the cube of a number, the cube of x. Well, give me the cube of 125. What number multiplied by itself 3 equal times equals 125? And sometimes it's a matter of trial and error. Okay, well, I know that 10 times 10 times 10 is going to be way too big. I mean, we're looking at 1,000, so it's at least a smaller portion at. So let's go down to 5, cut it in half. 5 times 5 is 25 times 5 is 125. So it's a matter of trial and error in finding the numbers. Now, right now, when we're trying to find the squares, the cubes, and so forth, then you pretty much know that it's going to come out to an even number. And we wouldn't really ask you to calculate it if there was a decimal involved at this point. So what do you think the square of 144 is? Well, since we're talking a square, now I could put a 2 there, but it's common knowledge that the square would not have that factor there. So what number times itself equals 144? And we now know that 12 times 12 is 144, so the answer to this problem is 12. Now we do need to identify some terminology for you so that you can remember the numbers whose square root you are trying to find is called the radicand. So that 144 is called the radicand. Okay, so we talked about the square, and we also have what we call the cube root. And by the way, that number there, that cube, is called an indice. I-N-D-I-C-E-S is the indice. All right, so let's do a practice with the cube. If I have the cube of 27, what number times itself 3 times equals 27? Well, I know that 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, so my answer is 3. And after a while, you get really good at this, and you can come up with those numbers quite easily. What if you get one that's fairly large, like 1,024? And actually, I did not want my indice to be cubed. I want it to be to the 5th indice. Okay, so it's a little bit more work here, and it might create some trial and error. So if we did 2's, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. So we know that's not it. Let's jump up to 4's. And here it might be a little handy to have a calculator. And we would find out that 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 is 1,024. If you don't believe me, go ahead and do the math and verify that. And so that's the using the square roots. Now sometimes you will have, let me change my color, I'm running out of screen room here. What if I have the square root of 16 over 25? Well, I can rewrite that, and I can put square root of 16 over the square root of 25, and it becomes a little bit more manageable. Okay, but we do know that that comes out to be an equal number, and it's 4/5. The last thing I want to talk about before we move on to the odd problems is about that pesky negative sign. If the negative sign is outside the doghouse, then that means I'm solving the square of 16 as 4, but I cannot forget my negative sign, and that becomes a -4. If the negative sign is inside the doghouse, and we'll do the cube of 125, and we'll say it's -125. Is there something that we could cube times, and we already said that 5 times 5 times 5. So is my answer a -5 or a 5? And my solution would be a -5. So you just got to pay attention to where that negative sign is. Is it outside? Then I deal with it after I solve my square root. If it's inside, I have to deal with it with my square root. And we know that anytime I have an odd number, the negative sign will appear. Okay? And so good luck with these. Pay attention. And if you have to look over the material a couple of times and look it through the examples, it might benefit you since this might be the first time you've been exposed to it.